What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on Buy Sell Cars TV. Today we're going to be talking all things recession. It has officially been announced the UK is now in a recession, and I'm sure a lot of you want to know how is that going to affect the car market, but more specifically the used car market. There actually is a couple of potential positives from a recession to do with the used car market, but we're going to go for a drive. We're going to talk about those positives, go over the negatives, and just give you a general idea of what a recession means for the used car market, things to look out for, what to expect in this current climate. So let's go for a drive. So what does this recession mean for the car market at the moment? What should we be expecting to see? One of the first things you're going to see, especially now that it's actually officially been announced, is people are going to be more cautious. You're going to think twice before spending money, especially when it comes to, more of those luxury items. People will definitely be more cautious, and that kind of has a knock-on effect because it's to do with your confidence in the economy. If there's not a lot of confidence, if people are being more cautious, that's going to mean the demand is falling. And when I say that the demand is going to be falling, it's more so for things which people want rather than need. A lot of people, to some extent, they need a car, but what they don't need is a flashy car, a luxury car, or an expensive car. The want is different to the need. So the demand for that is definitely going to fall. Now, if the demand falls for something, what do we see as always? The price will start to fall. And to be fair, we are seeing that already. For the last 6 to 12 months, there has been a big change in the car market. And the reason for that was a lot of factors. Interest rates being the biggest one. They were super high. Cost of living was very high as well. So those factors was part of the reason to why car prices had started to fall. But also there was a lot of supply on the market. Manufacturers were starting to increase production again. So this meant generally there was quite a lot of supply on the market and the demand was starting to decrease. I'd done a video on this before with the Range Rovers. Now, of course, there was more to that with those specific cars. The insurance prices were high due to the thefts, but those cars massively had fallen in price, and obviously interest rates was definitely a factor of that as well. So those are the first couple of things we'll probably start to see in a recession with the used car market. But let's talk about some of the positives that can come from a recession, because there are things the government will need to do to try and get us out of this recession. And one of those things is potentially trying to reduce interest rates. Now, interest rates were at an all-time low for the last 10 to 15 years. We're probably never going to see those rates ever again. However, currently rates are high. If we are in a recession, the way a government will try and push to get us out of that is by getting us to spend money. And the easiest way to do that is to bring interest rates down. Now, why I say this is a positive, majority of people finance cars. So if you are wanting to buy your new car and rates are low, it's a good time. It's a good thing. It means your monthly payments will be lower, your total amount payable will be lower. So that's a good thing. Now, if you can find the sweet spot as we go into this recession where prices will begin to fall, and then potentially if the interest rates do decrease, finding that sweet spot where prices are low and then interest rates also begin to decrease, that is the time to buy a car on finance. And the reason I say that is once interest rates do become very, very attractive, people are going to start to buy cars again, people will spend money, and then the demand will increase, meaning the prices may potentially rise a little bit, but it'll be more difficult to get yourself a deal. And that leads on to the point of, if you are in a position to be buying a car, it's a buyer's market. You will be able to get a good deal. Even at main dealers, I'm sure you'll be able to negotiate on their prices. If you go back a couple of years ago and you tried to ask for even 50 quid off, the dealer will probably laugh at you on the phone and say, they've got 20 customers fighting over a car. So now the tables have turned, dealers are struggling to sell cars. So it's a buyer's market. Use that to your advantage. Get yourself a discount when you're buying a car, even if it's a private seller, because people are being more cautious. They're more likely to think, let's just sell off this asset, get the money, and then it's something that they don't need to worry about. So 100% use this time to your advantage if you're in a position to buy a car. And the last point on this, it kind of leaps off from the negative, but it is a positive to some extent as well. The demand for cheap used cars will most likely increase. Now, I'm talking your sub £5,000 cars. If this market got affected in a negative way, there is a big problem in the world. The reason why the demand for this will increase is because in a recession, if people are being more cautious, they may downsize, they may downgrade. Maybe when they come out of their finance or their lease, rather than doing another car, they'll just buy something cash for a couple of grand. So the demand for your cheap used car will increase. And we're starting to see that already, to be honest with you. That sub £5,000 mark, it is a bit more challenging to get a deal because, you know, they're economical, they're cheap to run, they're cheap to buy, they don't really depreciate much either. It ends up becoming a very attractive proposition for someone to buy in a recession where people are being more cautious and just being a bit more wary with their spending. So the demand for those cars will probably continue to increase. So now let's talk about some of those negatives. And when it comes to the used car market, in the buying side of things, there isn't necessarily a major impact. It's more so with how does it affect the current car that you may drive. Let's say you drive a luxury car, you know, maybe between 40,000 to sort of 80,000, something up to like 5 years old. That is the type of car which gets affected in a recession, because for a lot of people, they've stretched themselves to buy that car that they wanted to buy. So what happens is when we do go into a recession and people decide they want to, you know, tighten things up a bit, one of the first things that they will look to do is probably just downsize their car. If you're driving a £60,000 car, you could get rid of it, still buy a very nice car for even if it's £15,000, £20,000, but you've massively reduced your monthly payments. It's an easy way for someone to cut back. And just speaking to other dealers, they have seen an impact in that sort of bracket of cars. And a lot of people have actually, you know, adapted and changed the way they buy cars now. Rather than selling cars more closer to that £100,000 bracket, they've actually now come down a bit, focusing on more cars around the sort of the 30 grand bracket. Everyone has their own niche, and I'm sure there are a lot of car dealers that will probably still say things are flying and selling for them. Probably is true to some extent, but as a consumer, that potentially is an impact that can happen in a recession to your asset. So it's something you do need to think about moving forward. And even if we go to the top end market, your supercars, your super luxury Rolls Royces, Ferraris, Porsches, that is a market which has also been affected. Porsches have already massively fallen. You know, you look at your Turbo S's, they were super inflated before, you know, from the COVID prices. They were selling for £50,000, £60,000 over list. Now you can go into the dealer and probably get a discount on the brand new Turbo S. If you want to buy one, you know, used approved, you're probably saving £40,000, £50,000 on something like that. GT3s, a car which, you know, is very, very sought after and difficult to buy. Again, they have massively come down, are hovering around your list price, obviously plus options, etc. Porsche Taycans don't even get me started on Porsche Taycans. Massive, they're on their ass. If you literally bought a brand new Taycan, you've literally gone to a bonfire and just thrown 100 grand into the fire. It's really bad. But there's more to that with the Taycans. Obviously the electric market, that's another topic, another conversation to have. But just as a whole, even at the supercar end, Ferraris, they've all come down. Even they're falling. And you might be thinking, you know, the super rich, they always have money. For sure, the super rich, but you don't need to be super rich to get yourself into a Ferrari anymore, because with finance. And what I mean by that is if you've got a reasonable job and you don't have many overheads, you probably can get into a supercar for not crazy money. So that person is someone who stretched themselves to get into their, you know, Ferrari, their Lamborghini, or whatever it may be. And now, where things are getting tough and interest rates are high, their payments are going crazy, they want out. And we are seeing that now, where those prices are falling. And those super rich people that we're talking about, what are they going to do? They're probably going to start buying these cars because there's plenty of them on the market. The supply is high, meaning the prices are falling. And if you've got the money to do so, why wouldn't you? So what would I recommend doing now, you know, as we are going into this recession? So if I was your regular guy, you know, going into the recession, feeling the pinch, cost of living is high, I would stick to your sub £5,000 cars. You can buy a fantastic car for sub £5,000 these days. The quality of cars are really good. A nice Golf, a BMW 3 Series, even estate cars, whatever you need, you can buy a nice car for £5,000. You just need to find a good used car dealer you can trust. And feel free to DM me on my Instagram, which I'll leave below, if you are looking for something, and I'll be happy to help. But yeah, sub £5,000 is where you want to be. The reason I say that, cheap to run, cheap to maintain. You're not really going to lose any money because those cars are probably heavily depreciated anyway. You can buy that car, drive around for a couple of years, put 20, 30,000 miles on it, and you're going to lose a couple of grand. But as long as you buy a good one, off a well looked after, maintained service car, etc., that is your best option to keep your costs low. And on the other spectrum as well, if you've got a few quid and you do want to go buy an expensive car, I definitely think you are in a good position. Buyer's market, people are potentially desperate to sell and free up some cash. So if you are in a position to spend money, go for it. But as I said earlier, what I would try and do is, if you are financing a car, is wait for that sweet spot. See how the market goes over the next couple of months going into this recession, and see what the government does in regard to try and get us out. So if those interest rates do start to come down, try and find that sweet spot when the cars are cheap and finance is low, and then you can potentially bag yourself a really good deal. So that is my top tip for trying to get yourself a good deal in this recession. But on that note, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I hope it's given you an insight into this recession, what it means for the used car market, how it's potentially going to affect things, and just what to look out for when you are wanting to move forward and buy a car in this current climate. So hopefully that's come across on today's video. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop a comment below, or you can DM me on my Instagram, which is at BuySellCarsTV. Follow me on TikTok as well, guys. I upload a lot of videos on there as well, so that's also at BuySellCarsTV. But other than that, guys, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Take care, guys.